Well, what's up, everybody? This is Jake from State Farm here, coming to you today from North Bend Recreation Area towards the Dearborn Heights border, which is a soccer field, if you can't already tell. Anyways, I had filmed a video in Plymouth last weekend, and I had brushed on how I got into the whole first aid thing. All of you know that I do first aid stations for Wayne County Parks, Old Village, Plymouth, and starting this year, next month, I'm going to be doing 2 events, one next month and one in October, with Detroit Muscle Gym, which is a gym in the Old Village. I had brushed on that topic, but I didn't really get into it, and I had mentioned or brushed on that I want to do a proper video where I just make a whole video about my whole journey and how I got into everything. So I'm here on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. Today is Saturdays at Hines, so a portion of Hines Drive is closed to traffic. The only cars that have been out here on the road all day have been police cars, local sheriff's deputies. And look at this. There is an airplane. I don't know if I can get it in the picture up. I couldn't get it. Oh well, I'll have to wait for the next one. We're right in the flight path for Detroit Metro Airport, which is one of the biggest international airports in the state of Michigan. So it's literally, I think like 2 or 3 miles from here, maybe 3 or 4 miles from where I'm at. And also, I apologize about the sweaty shirt. I've been biking all morning, and it's really hot out. So I figured since I'm here, there's nobody here, and I'm pretty much to where my destination is for the day, I figured why not make this video to talk about how I got into the whole first aid thing, and basically the road to first aid is what I'm going to call this video. So all right, I should probably start by talking about what influenced me to get into the whole first aid thing to begin with. So I live at home, and I still live at home, and growing up, my mom, Debbie, had a bunch of health problems. She's had 2 heart attacks, she's had a stroke, she has a bunch of other medical issues too. And because I live at home and lived at home, I wanted to know what to do if shit hit the fan. If my mom had another heart attack or she had another stroke, what could I do to help her until an ambulance were to respond? I wanted to make sure if we were camping, at that time we were actually getting ready to go out west for a while, which we ended up doing. We ended up going to like New Mexico and California and stuff like that. So I knew with that trip coming up, my dad's retirement, all this stuff, and that I was going to go with them on this trip, that I wanted to know what to do and actually have the skill sets to be able to help them. Because there was one time when we were in Arizona, we were staying on BLM land, which is basically Bureau of Land Management is what they call it. And it was out in the middle of the desert, out in the middle of nowhere. The nearest hospital was like 5 or 10 miles away. Would have taken forever for an ambulance to get there. And we didn't even have cell connection where we were staying. So the odds of communicating with anybody was low. Nothing happened, but situations like that. Or situations like today where I'm here at Hines Park by myself, if somebody were to ride their bike and crash or jog and go down, I would like to know what to do. So I started looking online for in-person certification courses, because first aid and CPR certification courses these days, you have 2 options. You can do in-person, where you actually train with a dummy, you actually do the actual CPR with the dummy and stuff, and practice the skills with the dummy. And then they have online classes where all you have to do is just take it online. It's like an online portion and boom, you don't even have to go into in-person courses. So I looked into both options, but I am the kind of person with my autism where I have to have hands-on skill sets and or hands-on training. I have to I can't just go online and do things online. I have to have the in-person. And not only that, but I also, to have the confidence to be able to do whatever I needed to do, I want that hands-on training. So I started looking for more hands-on courses, but I didn't really have much luck. So then I found a place called Chase, CHASE, which stands for Comprehensive Health and Safety, located in Farmington Hills, Michigan. So I found this place. They have basic life support certification courses. They have a certification course where you can go and get your instructor certification. So if you want to become like a first aid instructor, even a BLS instructor, you can do that. They have a first aid course for adult and pediatric. They have first aid CPR AED combined, and then they also have just a regular CPR AED first aid or CPR AED without the first aid if you just want CPR AED and you don't want the first aid stuff. So I called them, told them my whole situation, everything, and they were like, I really feel like you're going to do really well, and we really want you to come and try out this course. So I took a first aid CPR AED course, not expecting to get certified, just learning the skills, just wanted to learn the skills. And I ended up getting an actual certification, an actual real certification. Fast forward to October of 2021, I got my first aid certification. The following September of 2022, I was attending a powwow at Nankin Mills, a Native American thing at Nankin Mills. And at that time I was going as just a spectator. So I had a ribbon shirt on that I wear because I wear a ribbon shirt when I go to powwows. I don't anymore when I go to this one because now I work at this one or volunteer at this one for first aid, but this was before the whole first aid thing. So September of 2021 or 2022. So September of 2022, I was attending a powwow at Nankin Mills as a spectator, and I was watching the dancing when a page went over the intercom thing that the MC had that said medical problem or medical assistance needed in the elders tent. That's what he said. So I ran over to the elders tent, assessed the situation, ended up helping the person. The person ended up going to the hospital by ambulance. End of story. I was walking back to my chair, and this guy came up to me and was like, hey, have you ever considered maybe talking to them about maybe having like a first aid station here or an ambulance stage or something like that? So, I seen you help that lady and you did a really good job. You should be able to really maybe look into doing something like that. It would be, something that could be worth it. So I told him, I said, yeah, but normally the first aid stations are ran by the fire department. I don't think that they're ever going to allow me as a layperson to do that. He goes, well, you're certified, aren't you? I said, yeah. Well, that's all that should matter. If you have the skills and you're certified, they shouldn't have an issue with it. I say you give it a try. So again, I thought about it. I didn't think it would be realistic. I'm like, there's no way. They're going to tell me you're not a firefighter or affiliated with anybody. We're not going to, even though you're trained and certified, we would much rather have the fire department do it, which would have been justifiable. I would have understood. So I gave it some thought. October comes around of 2022, and I'm going to see The Killers with my brother and his husband and my sister-in-law, Andrea. And I had brought up the whole thing to my brother and had explained the whole situation to him, and his words to me was, bro or brother, go for it. You should do it. Do it. Contact these people. Go for it. I think this is a good thing. It could be a good thing. It could work out in your favor. It may not. So the day after I got home, because we had stayed at an Airbnb, I messaged the American Indian Health and Family Services. And then they got me in touch with the American Indian Association of Detroit. And then they got me in touch with a man named Travis, who I talked to. Travis thought it would be an excellent, amazing idea, really good idea. He was all on board, but he had to talk to some of his higher ups. And then I didn't think it would get approved. I thought for sure they were going to say no. Turns out they said yes. And then September of 2023, I started doing first aid at the powwow as a volunteer. And I'll be honest with you, I thought that that was only going to be it. And for a while, that's what it was. It was every September, I do first aid at a powwow. My occupation at the time on Facebook, I put on Facebook that I was a volunteer event, first aid volunteer. It was only one event a year. Still made me happy that I got to look forward to just one event every September, but I wanted more, you know? And that's the reason why I got into this to begin with, because I wanted to help more people out, you know? So the powwow happened, everything went well. A couple months had passed, and I was contacted by a guy named Matthew, who is basically one of the people in charge of Wayne County Parks. And Matthew was at the powwow that I was volunteering at, and knew how well, you know, that I had helped that person. And he started recruiting me to do events with Wayne County Parks. So I started doing, this past year, I got to do an event called Winterfest, which takes place at Elizabeth Park in Trenton, which was a lot of fun. I got to do this Earth Day thing. I also get to do the powwow with them every year. Bugtopia, that was another one. So there's quite a few events that I do. I do like at least 4 or 5 events with Wayne County Parks a year. And I also do the events with the Old Village Plymouth. And basically how that got started was the Old Village had made a post on Facebook that they were going to have a Pride celebration in June. And it was going to be this small town pride is what they called it. And I've been wanting to go to Pride for a long time, but I never really I went once and never went again because of safety issues. So I had contacted them and was like, hey, I seen your thing of information about the Pride that you have going on. What is the security going to be like? And they got into details about security and what security is going to be like. And then they messaged me back and was like, if you have any suggestions on what you think should be at in an event like this, let us know. So I thought about it, and I'm like, do you have any medical? They were like, we never thought about that. I said, you should look into maybe getting like a medical station or something. I said, you know, I do events with Wayne County Parks, and it's all first aid related, and I'm certified. I sent them my BLS certification and my first aid certification, and I'm like, hey, you need somebody? I would be more than happy to. They got it approved. I did Pride. After Pride, they started recruiting me for all their other events. So they have about 4 or 5 different events every year too that I get to do with them. And then this year when I was at Pride, I was approached by 2 people who are the owners of the Detroit Muscle Gym, which is a gym in a powerlifting gym in the Old Village of Plymouth. And they are friends with Jan, and they needed somebody to do medical. They have 2 events, or they have a few events coming up, one in September, one in October for now, and then there's a few other events throughout the year that I'm most likely going to be doing with them as well, according to them. My name was brought up because the fire department didn't want to get involved. They needed medical for their powerlifting competitions. They have one in September for suicide prevention, and they have another one in October, which is just a strongman competition. And my name was brought up. They approached me. I said, sure, and it's going to be a paid one instead of volunteer work, so I finally get to get paid for what I'm doing. So word spreads very quickly. What started as just one small event a year has now turned into about 10 or 11 events a year. And I get to do this every single year now, and every single summer. And there's definitely a catch-22 to it, I'll tell you that much. There's so much good that has come out of this. These events that I do, normally I would not attend in my everyday life. I don't go to car shows. I don't, which is another thing I got to do this year. I got to do Autos for Autism for the first time this year. So there you go. That's another event I get to do every single year, starting this year, and I get to do it next year too. If you were to call me on the phone, if my brother, I'm going to call him my brother because he is, Brett. If Brett were to call me on the phone and were to say, hey, let's go to a car show together, I would probably say no, because I don't like car shows. I'm not a car show going kind of a guy. It's just I've never been into it. They're way too crowded, way too loud, way too busy. I just don't want to deal with it. But I've done not one but 2 car shows since I started the first aid journey, and I show up to these car shows and I stay the whole time, and guess what? I had a really good time both times. The Bugtopia and Earth Day events and the Winterfest events with Wayne County Parks. I wouldn't go to those events in my everyday life. I wouldn't go to a Bugtopia or Earth Day event in my normal everyday civilian world. I don't want to use civilian, that's the wrong word. But in my normal everyday life, like right now, when I'm not in uniform and I'm not in the first aid frame of mind, which I always am because I'm always prepared because I always have my kit, but you get the picture. When I'm not in my uniform at an event doing first aid stuff, I wouldn't go to those events. Like right now, if there was a car show going on, I wouldn't go. I have no desire. But doing first aid, I have to show up. So I've been able to do the car show, and I get to do the chili cook-off this year. And I've been able to get out of my comfort zone, if that makes sense. Doing these events has forced me to get out of my comfort zone. I have to deal with the crowds. I have to deal with the noise. I can't wear earplugs when I'm working first aid because I have to be able to hear the radio if I get radioed to go take care of somebody. So if I'm at an event where it's very loud and stuff, normally I would wear earplugs. I can't wear earplugs. I have to be able to hear the radio if it goes off. Dealing with people, having to talk to people, with dealing with complete strangers, having to deal with families and kids and things of that sort. It's forced me to be more social. It's forced me to work on my social skills, and it's helped me with my social skills and made me a much better communicator than I used to be. I do a much better job listening to other people now instead of interrupting their conversations. I do a lot better talking to people now than I used to, and it's all because I have to do those things when I'm working first aid. So it's gotten me out of that. And being in a very important role of providing medical for people who need medical, also gets you out of your comfort zone. Like I said, I, knock on wood, have not had to deal with anything that traumatic yet. But the more events that I do, the likeliness of that happening is a little bit higher than maybe some people might be comfortable with. And, it's basically allowing me and forcing me to get outside of my comfort zone. And because of that, I've been able to do that in other aspects of my life and do things that I normally would not do. Because that's just where I'm at in this point of my life. I think my 20s was the decade where I kind of was discovering myself and who I was, and trying to find my place in the world, so to speak. And that's the decade of making mistakes and screwing up and losing friends and all that other stuff that happens when you're in your 20s. Now that I'm in my 30s, all that procrastination that I had in my 20s of I'm going to do this and then I never do it. Kind of like I'm going to wash the dishes at 1 o'clock today. 1 o'clock comes, I'll do it at 5, and then it never gets done. Same thing. I set a goal for myself. I never accomplished it. And I had quite a few goals in my 30s. My first goal was I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to get healthy. I wanted to go to the gym. I want to live a long life. I don't want to be like my mom and dad in my 60s with heart disease and diabetes and blood pressure problems and issues walking around, and I don't want any of that. I want to be one of those 80-year-old men that still walk. There's a guy that lives in my neighborhood who's in his 80s who jogs, and I want to be that 80-year-old. I don't want to be an 80-year-old who has to use a walker or a wheelchair to get around, or who's on 50 different medications to keep myself alive. I don't want to do that. I want to live a very long, productive, healthy life. I ended up losing, I think, 53 pounds, or 40-something pounds. I went from 234 down to 180, which I currently weigh now. 182. Which I currently weigh now. I go to the gym 5 days a week. I got into that routine. A second goal I had was to get out of my comfort zone, to start doing things that I normally would not do, to go to places I normally wouldn't go to explore things, to get outside of my comfort zone. The third is to meet new people and to build my social circle and to maybe eventually fall in love with someone. That's another topic for another day, though. So, doing these first aid events, in a way, I accomplished 2 goals so far, and I'm only 31. I'm starting to get in really good shape, and I'm getting myself out of my comfort zone, and I'm helping people, and I'm doing what I absolutely love to do, and that's something I'm going to continue to do pretty much for the foreseeable future. People ask me all the time, are you ever going to stop doing first aid related stuff? This is my life. That's what I tell them. I am going to continue to do this until Wayne County Parks, Garden City Public Schools, Detroit Muscle, Old Village Plymouth, those four organizations, until any of those people tell me they don't want me there anymore, as long as I keep getting invited back, or word of mouth spreads and I get more new events with new people, this is going to be my life for the foreseeable future. I don't ever plan on stopping until I'm at least in my 50s. That's my plan. 51 is my plan. When I'm 51 years old, then I will reconsider maybe, doing the whole first aid thing. But helping people and doing this, I consider this kind of like a career now. Even though I'm only getting paid for the Detroit Muscle events and none of the other events are paid positions, but still, this is what I do now. This is basically my life, and I couldn't be more happier with it, honestly. Like I said before, I feel like I'm kind of living a dream. I'm doing something I've always wanted to do. I finally have the opportunities to help people in the way I want to help them. Why would I give that up? I'm not going to. So, you can consider this something I'm going to be doing for the foreseeable future, for sure. So, anyways, that's the video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm Jake from State Farm. I'll see you on the next one.